Good morning, all. As we enter into this virtual service, please note you have been muted by our host. If you wish to speak during announcements and/or joys and concerns, please go to the participants icon to open the participants window and then click on the raise hand button. A blue hand symbol will appear by your name. When you're called upon, click unmute me and speak. When you're finished, click on lower hand button and the mute me button. Remember, do not unmute yourself until you are recognized. Thank you. Also, if you're not already in speaker view, seeing only me next to the title slide, then click on the speaker view button near the upper right part of your screen. And finally, one more technical note for today's service. We'll be playing back several pre-recorded musical segments, so if you have a headset or earbuds, we recommend you listen to this service using them. A person should hear a little music, read a little poetry, and see a fine picture every day of their life, in order that worldly cares may not obliterate the sense of the beautiful which has been implanted in the human soul. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. Music is the language of spirit. It opens the secret of life, bringing peace, abolishing strife. Kahlil Gibran. And music in the soul can be heard by the universe. Lao Tzu. Jan Callner, would you please light the chalice this morning while I read these words by Marnie Singer. The chalice is the container, the space where the musicians and the listeners gather. The wax is the fuel, the hours of practice and the life experiences of everyone in the room. The wick is the instruments and vocal cords through which the music will flow. And the flame is the music which is created, as if by magic, when the instruments are lifted, the breath is inhaled, and the downbeat is knotted. May this flame ignite the music within us all. Before we sing the first hymn, let me remind you to leave yourselves muted. However, we want you and whoever is with you to sing along with Jan or Mary as big and loud as you like. Make it a joyous experience. So let's sing the opening hymn, When in Our Music, number 36 in the Gray Hymnal.
When in our music God is glorified, and adoration leaves no room for pride, it is as though the whole creation cried, Hallelujah! How often making music we have found a new dimension in the world of sound. As worship moved us to a more profound Alleluia. So has the church in liturgy and song, in faithful love to centuries of wrong, bore witness to the truth in every tongue. Alleluia. Let every instrument be tuned for praise. Let all rejoice who have a voice to raise. And may God give us faith to sing always. Alleluia.
Unitarian Universalist community of Cambria. We are glad that you joined us today. As a Unitarian Universalist community, we celebrate religious diversity and welcome all who journey in search of faith and spirituality. The UUCC is a lay-led congregation, inviting speakers from different religious traditions and spiritual or scientific backgrounds to speak in our pulpit. We encourage presentations covering a variety of topics and areas of interest to our community that connect us with the UU's 7 principles, which we hold as strong values and moral guides. We live out these principles within a living tradition of wisdom and spirituality, drawn from 6 sources as diverse as science, poetry, scripture, and personal experience. Today's service centers around the 3rd of our 7 principles and the 1st of our 6 sources. In the 3rd principle, we affirm and promote acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. And the 1st source, direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the sources which create and uphold life. Reverend Kathleen Rollins says, "Throughout history, we have moved to the rhythms and mystery and wonder, prophecy, wisdom, teachings from ancient and modern sources and nature herself." My name is Andy Fagan, and I am your worship associate this morning. I'd like to extend a special welcome to today's guests and visitors. We're glad you joined us this morning under these challenging circumstances. If you're not on our mailing list and would like to be, please visit our website at www.uuccambria.org so that we can keep you informed about all of our activities. And a reminder, if you wish to see this or any of our past Zoom services again, recordings of these services can be found on the UUCC website and Facebook as well. The Membership Committee invites non-members to consider becoming a member of our community. Please contact Janet Cooper or a board member if you are interested. Thank you. So once again, good morning and welcome to everyone. Now let us recite the affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, and to help one another. We set aside this time for any short announcements that would be of interest to our UU community, members, and friends. Please keep your items short and to the point. For any items that need more explanation, please call or email the person after the service, to be respectful of everyone's time. If you have an announcement, please raise that virtual blue hand by clicking on the raised hand button near the lower right of your participant's window. When Susan calls your name, click the Unmute Me button near the lower left of the participant's window and then speak. Susan?
Oh, she's muted.
First of all, I would like to request that the board members stay after the service for an extremely brief meeting. And then I would like to call on Janet.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to announce that our local United Way chapter is currently holding their annual fundraiser called Stuff the Bus. The goal of this fundraiser is to ensure that every student in San Luis Obispo County has the supplies needed to successfully participate in their classroom activities. This year, more than ever, many local students and teachers are in need of supplies necessary to begin the year. Last year, the fundraiser served over 4,000 students. However, there were still 1,000 students left that never received donated supplies. So our goal this year is to meet every student's and family's needs to successfully begin the school year. Please consider giving a generous donation to the United Way Stuff the Bus fundraiser. You can find more information and donation forms at the unitedwayslow.org under our programs. Thanks.
Thank you, Janet. Treva.
Morning, all. This is just a friendly reminder that our discussion forum on the bylaws continues this Tuesday at 6 p.m. So see you there. Thank you.
Thank you, Treva. Tom, would you please unmute yourself and make your announcement?
Yes, I'm speaking as a representative of the nominations committee, which consists of myself, Art Gillingham, and Diane DeMarco. We are seeking self-nominees for this next year's board. There are 3 positions for members at large. And Susan, how many officer positions are there open?
Right now, the VP will be opening up, and the board has to make a determination on secretary, if it will be for 1 year or 3 years or not at all. So the board will be making that determination on secretary.
All right, so thank you. So anyone interested in possibly serving on the board, please contact Diane, Art, or myself for an opportunity to serve. Thank you.
When are the elections?
The November meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Marianne, would you please unmute yourself and make your announcement?
Hi, all. On a different note, after a dearth of not having any live music for a long time, I'm thrilled to announce that I'm going to be doing a show at the back and behind the Olallaberry Inn in the garden. It's going to be socially distanced. I'm doing a jazz duo with my guitarist from LA, Doug McDonald. There are only 30 spaces available, and 15 of them are already taken. So if you're interested, contact me directly. It's going to be 3 weeks from today, the 30th of August, from 2 to 4 at the Olallaberry Inn Garden.
Thank you, Marianne. And Robert or Nancy, if you would please unmute yourselves and make your announcement.
Hi, I'm Nancy Tolan, and Kat and I are starting a new group called Moving Toward Racial Justice. We will be working together to educate ourselves about racism in the United States and how we can best be allies in the struggle to end racism. Our first meeting will be Wednesday, August 19th at 7 p.m. There will be an announcement in the newsletter. You can email me at tolan@charter.net. And basically we'll be reviewing podcast videos, reading books, and then having discussions probably on a monthly basis. Hope you can join us.
Thank you, Nancy. And Don, please unmute yourself, make your announcement.
Thank you. Just a reminder, the CCSD is having its first board meeting of the month this Thursday at 2 o'clock via Zoom. Free entertainment. Invite you, anyone interested, please. I'd love to see you there.
Thank you, Don. Marcia, Jess, or Jeff, please unmute yourself and make your announcement.
Hello from all of us. At any rate, sorry about my scruffy appearance. My razor went out a while ago. At any rate, considering I look like I've been on a ship for a while, and there was Jess saying hello, it's appropriate that I make this announcement because it is a destination that is only reached by sea or air, and it is the island of Mauritius. If anyone knows much about it, I've just kind of discovered it myself, and it's been called one of the most beautiful places on earth. And if you've actually seen one of its interesting underwater geologic features, you'll see why. It's actually so incredible. It's hard to believe when you actually see it. You can look it up on YouTube. It looks like it's actually falling off the edge of the world and into the sea. It's a beautiful, beautiful place, and it's amazing. And when you look at it, it's like you won't believe what you're seeing if you get the chance to see its interesting underwater feature that can actually be seen by air, and they take helicopter tours over it. It's hard to believe what you're looking at. Anyway, one of the reasons why I'm making an announcement is this island nation is now threatened, and it's threatened by an oil spill. A Japanese supertanker crashed into it, and now there's oil everywhere, and there's not very much help being offered it because it's kind of in the middle of nowhere, and I think a lot of people just simply don't know about it, and I haven't seen much reporting on it. But I think if any of you would like to get together either a fund or something like that, I'd like to mention that, and just, see me if you'd like, or get together, or already know of a fund or something like that, let me know. I just think that our hearts and prayers should go somewhere to helping the people out with this island nation, and it's truly a jewel of this earth, and people should know about it and know that it's under threat right now. And if there's anything anyone can do, would like to get together with me about, I'd love to talk to them about it and see if we can get together on how to do something about that. Again, the island is named Mauritius. It's Mauritius, I believe is how it's spelled. And I think it's a French protectorate, but it is its own nation, and they're doing their very best to try and take care of it. They've applied to the French government for help, but they're still waiting for help for a lot of people. So
thank you, Jeff.
You can do. Thank you.
Thank you to everyone for those announcements. And now back to the sanctuary.
Thank you, Susan. Next week, we continue our summer Sermons by Other People series with Diane DeMarco, who will read Black Lives Matter More Than a Slogan, written by Nathan Ryan. Sharing together some of our personal and significant joys and concerns brings us closer as a faith community. We invite you to share the milestones that are deeply felt as a part of your personal life, but please be mindful and considerate of all who come to worship with us this morning. This is a time of community building. The collective flames of these candles also embody all the joys and sorrows which may have gone unspoken today, but are deeply felt in this community. The first of our readings is More Than We Deserve by Robert R. Walsh. I heard the second Brandenburg Concerto played in honor of Bach's 300th birthday, and I was swept away. I remembered a story about the people who send messages into space. Someone suggested sending a piece by Bach. The reply was, but that would be bragging. Some say we get what we deserve in life, but I don't believe it. We certainly don't deserve Bach. What have I done to deserve the second Brandenburg Concerto? I have not been kind enough. I have not done enough justice. I have not loved my neighbor or myself sufficiently. I have not praised God enough to have earned a gift like this. Life is a gift we have not earned, and for which we cannot pay. There is no necessity that there be a universe, no inevitability about a world moving toward life and then self-consciousness. There might have been nothing at all. Since we have not earned Bach, or crocuses, or lovers, the best we can do is express our gratitude for the undeserved gifts and do our share of the work of creation. Let us now join in a time of meditation, of prayer, and of silence. Let us seek the quiet and the calm, laying aside our struggles, and in the silence, may there be a reverence in our hearts and thankfulness within our spirit and a deepened understanding of the meaning of our lives. Let us enter the stillness. Please come back now. Our second reading is from The Enjoyment of Music by Joseph Machlis, Professor of Music at Queens College of the City, University of New York. He states, "The beginnings of music are shrouded in prehistory. However, a number of theories have been advanced to explain its origin. One derives music from the inflections of speech, another from mating calls, a third from the cries of battle and signals of the hunt, a fourth from the rhythms of collective labor. Some attribute the rise of music to the imitation of nature, others connect it with the play impulse, with magic and religious rites, or with the need for emotional expression. These explanations have one factor in common. They relate music to the profoundest experiences of the individual and the group. Underlying all is the fact that humans possess in their vocal cords a means of producing song, in their bodies an instrument for rhythm, and in their minds the capacity to imagine and perceive musical sounds." Today we continue our Summer Sermons by Other People series. During this series, members of our community share sermons written and published by notable clergy and laity with which the readers have found a deep connection. Jan Callner will now present a sermon titled Adagio for Life by Dr. Carl Polnack. Jan.
Good morning. Professor Polnack took great delight in agreeing to have his talk read at our UU service here in Cambria. He made it a point to tell me he had been a member of the UU Arlington Street Church in Boston when he lived there, and he was married by the Reverend Kim Crawford Harvey in 2004, the first day same-sex marriage was legalized. He said that church had a major influence in his life. Now the head of music at Ithaca College, when he gave this address, he was director at Boston Conservatory. He apologized for his dreadfully long bio and told me to pick and choose what I wanted. I wanted everything. He is amazing. He holds a Bachelor of Music in Piano Performance from Eastman and a Master's of Music and Doctor of Music degrees from the University of Southern California. Dr. Polnack has played with everyone who is anyone, from Seiji Ozawa to Michael Tilson Thomas, from Tanglewood to the Hollywood Bowl. His thoughts on music have been translated into 6 languages and appear on well over 100,000 websites. Linda Ronstadt, in her official testimony to the United States Congress, read from his work on behalf of funding for the arts. I will now read the address he gave to the parents of incoming freshmen at Boston Conservatory. Just channel my voice through this incredibly talented and articulate artist. I give you Dr. Carl Callner. One of my parents' deepest fears, I suspect, is that society would not properly value me as a musician, that I wouldn't be appreciated. I had very good grades in high school. I was good in science and math, and they imagined that as a doctor or a research chemist or engineer, I might be more appreciated than I would be as a musician. I still remember my mother's remark when I announced my decision to apply to music school. She said, "You're wasting your SAT scores." On some level, I think my parents were not sure themselves what the value of music was, what its purpose was, and they loved music. They listened to classical music all the time. They just weren't really clear about its function. So let me talk about that a little bit, because we live in a society that puts music in the arts and entertainment section of the newspaper. And serious music, the kind your kids are about to engage in, has absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with entertainment. In fact, it's the opposite of entertainment. Let me talk a little bit about music and how it works. One of the first cultures to articulate how music really works were the ancient Greeks. And this is going to fascinate you. The Greeks said that music and astronomy were 2 sides of the same coin. Astronomy was seen as the study of relationships between observable, permanent, external objects, and music was seen as the study of relationships between invisible, internal, hidden objects. Music has a way of finding the big, invisible, moving pieces inside our hearts and souls and helping us figure out the position of things inside us. Let me give you some examples of how this works. One of the most profound musical compositions of all time is the Quartet for the End of Time, written by French composer Olivier Messiaen in 1940. Messiaen was 31 years old when France entered the war against Nazi Germany. He was captured by the Germans in June of 1940 and imprisoned as a prisoner of war at a prisoner of war camp. He was fortunate to find a sympathetic prison guard who gave him paper and a place to compose, and fortunate to have musician colleagues in the camp, a cellist, a violinist, and a clarinetist. Messiaen wrote his quartet with these specific players in mind. It was performed in January 1941 for 4,000 prisoners and guards in the prison camp. Today, it is one of the most famous masterworks in the repertoire. And you'll see on your screen the slide of Ani Kavavian and Ida Kavavian. Ani is a friend of mine in New York, and her sister Ida and she are major concertizers. The violin that you will hear in Messiaen's piece is Ida playing. about life in the Nazi camps, why would anyone in his right mind waste time and energy writing or playing music? There was barely enough energy on a good day to find food and water, to avoid a beating, to stay warm, to escape torture. Why would anyone bother with music? And yet, even from the concentration camps, we have poetry, we have music, we have visual arts. It wasn't just this one fanatic, Messiaen. Many, many people created art. Why? Well, in a place where people are only focused on survival, on the bare necessities, the obvious conclusion is that art must be somehow essential for life. The camps were without money, without hope, without commerce, without recreation, without basic respect. But they were not without art. Art is part of survival. Art is part of the human spirit, an unquenchable expression of who we are. Art is one of the ways in which we say, I am alive and my life has meaning. In September of 2001, I was a resident of Manhattan. On the morning of September 12, 2001, I reached a new understanding of my art and its relationship to the world. I sat down at the piano that morning at 10 a.m. to practice, as was my daily routine. I did it by force of habit, without thinking about it. I lifted the cover on the keyboard, opened my music, put my hands on the keys, and took my hands off the keys. And I sat there and thought, does this even matter? Isn't this completely irrelevant? Playing the piano right now, given what happened in this city yesterday, seems silly, absurd, irreverent, pointless. Why am I here? What place has a musician in this moment in time? Who needs a piano player right now? I was completely lost. Then I, along with the rest of New York, went through the journey of getting through that week. I did not play the piano that day, and in fact, I contemplated briefly whether I would ever want to play again. And then I observed how we got through the day. At least in my neighborhood, we didn't shoot hoops or play Scrabble. We didn't play cards to pass the time. We didn't watch TV. We didn't shop. We most certainly did not go to the mall. The first organized activity that I saw in New York on the very evening of September 11th was singing. People sang around the firehouses. People sang, "We shall overcome." Lots of people sang "America the Beautiful." The first organized public event that I remember was the Brahms Requiem, later that week at Lincoln Center with the New York Philharmonic. So the first organized public expression of grief, our first communal response to that historic event, was a concert. That was the beginning of a sense that life might go on. The U.S. military secured the airspace, but recovery was led by the arts, and by music in particular that very night. From these two experiences, I have come to understand that music is not part of arts and entertainment, as the newspaper section would have us believe. It's not a luxury, a lavish thing that we fund from leftovers of our budgets, not a plaything or an amusement or a pastime. Music is a basic need of human survival. Music is one of the ways we make sense of our lives, one of the ways in which we express feelings when we have no words, a way for us to understand things with our hearts when we can't with our minds. Some of you may know Samuel Barber's heart-wrenchingly beautiful piece, Adagio for strings. If you don't know it by that name, then some of you may know it as the background music which accompanied the Oliver Stone movie Platoon, a film about the Vietnam War. If you know that piece of music either way, you know it has the ability to crack your heart open like a walnut. It can make you cry over sadness you didn't know you had. Music can slip beneath our conscious reality to get at what's really going on inside us, the way a good therapist does. Very few of you have ever been to a wedding where there was absolutely no music. There might have been only a little music. There might have been some really bad music. But with few exceptions, there is some music. And something very predictable happens at weddings. People get all pent up with all kinds of emotions, and then there's some musical moment where the action of the wedding stops, and someone sings or plays the flute or something. And even if the music is lame, even if the quality isn't good, predictable 30 or 40% of the people who are going to cry at a wedding cry a couple of moments after the music starts. Why? The Greeks. Music allows us to move round those big, invisible pieces of ourselves and rearrange our insides so we can express what we feel, even when we can't talk about it. Can you imagine watching Indiana Jones or Superman or Star Wars with the dialogue but no music? What is it about the music swelling up at just the right moment of E.T. so that all the softies in the audience start crying at exactly the same moment? I guarantee you, if you showed the movie with the music stripped out, it wouldn't happen that way. The Greeks. Music is the understanding of the relationship between invisible, eternal objects. Now that we all just flew through space, I'll give you one more example. The story of the most important concert of my life. I must tell you, I have played a little less than 1,000 concerts in my life so far. I have played in places that I thought were important. I liked playing in Carnegie Hall. I enjoyed playing in Paris. It made me very happy to please the critics in St. Petersburg. I have played for people I thought were important. Music critics of major newspapers, foreign heads of state. The most important concert of my entire life took place in a nursing home in a small Midwestern town a few years ago. I was playing with a dear friend of mine who is a violinist. We began, as we often do, with Aaron Copland's sonata, which was written during World War II and dedicated to a young friend of Copland's, a young pilot who was shot down during the war. Now, we often talk to our audiences about the pieces we are going to play rather than providing them with program notes. But in this case, because we began the concert with this piece, we decided to talk about it later in the program and to just come out and play the music without explanation. The piece you're going to hear now is Aaron Copland himself on piano and Isaac Stern on violin. Midway through this piece, an elderly man seated in a wheelchair near the front of the concert hall began to weep. This man, whom I later met, was clearly a soldier. Even in his 70s, it was clear from his buzz-cut hair and square jaw and general demeanor that he had spent a good deal of life in the military. I thought it a bit odd that someone would be moved to tears by that particular movement of that particular piece. But it wasn't the first time I'd heard crying in a concert, and we went on with the concert and finished. When we came out to play the next piece on the program, we decided to talk about both the first and second, and we described the circumstances in which the Copeland was written and mentioned its dedication to a downed pilot. The man in front of the audience became so disturbed that he had to leave the auditorium. I honestly figured that we would not see him again, but he did come backstage afterwards, tears and all, to explain himself. What he told us was this: during World War II, I was a pilot, and I was in an aerial combat situation where one of my team's planes was hit. I watched my friend bail out, watched his parachute open, but the Japanese planes which had engaged us returned and machine-gunned across the parachute cords so as to separate the parachute from the pilot. And I watched my friend drop away into the ocean, realizing he was lost. I have not thought about this for many years, but during that first piece of music you played, this memory returned to me so vividly that it was as though I was reliving it. I didn't understand why this was happening. But now when you came out to explain that this piece of music was written to commemorate a lost pilot, it was a little more than I could handle. How does the music do that? How did it find those feelings and those memories in me? Remember the Greeks. Music is the study of invisible relationships between internal objects. The concert in the nursing home was the most important work I have ever done. For me to play for this soldier and help him connect somehow with Aaron Copeland and to connect their memories of their lost friends, to help him remember and mourn his friend. This is my work. This is why music matters. What follows is part of the talk I will give to this year's freshman class when I welcome them in a few days. The responsibility I will charge your sons and daughters with is this. If we were a medical school and you were here as a med student practicing appendectomies, you'd take your work very seriously because you would imagine that some night at 2 a.m. someone is going to waltz into your emergency room and you're going to have to save their life. Well, my friends, someday at 8 p.m., someone is going to walk into your concert hall and bring you a mind that is confused, a heart that is overwhelmed, a soul that is weary. Whether they go out whole again will depend partly on how well you do your craft. You're not here to become an entertainer, and you don't have to sell yourself. The truth is, you don't have anything to sell. Being a musician isn't about dispensing a product like selling used cars. I'm not an entertainer. I'm a lot closer to a paramedic, a firefighter, a rescue worker. You are here to become a sort of therapist for the human soul, a spiritual version of a chiropractor, physical therapist, someone who works with our insides to see if they get things to line up, to see if we can come into harmony with ourselves and be healthy and happy as well. Frankly, ladies and gentlemen, I expect you not only to master music, I expect you to save the planet. If there is a future wave of wellness on this planet, of harmony and peace, of an end to war, of mutual understanding, of equality, of fairness, I don't expect it will come from government, a military force, or a corporation. I no longer even expect it to come from the religions of the world, which together seem to have brought us as much war as they have peace. If there is a future of peace for humankind, if there is to be an understanding of how these invisible, internal things should fit together, I expect it will come from the artists, because that's what we do. As in the concentration camp and the evening of 9/11, the artists are the ones who might be able to help us with our internal, invisible lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Thank you for channeling Dr. Polnack and for bringing us that music, which in these difficult times lifts us up. Normally at this time we receive offerings from our congregants. However, due to the virtual format of this service, we invite you to make your offering in one of the methods shown on the slideshow. Enlarge the slideshow tile to see how to do this. These methods will also be posted in the newsletter and on the UUCC website itself. Please keep in mind that our congregation is entirely self-governed by the democratic process. One of the privileges of our free church tradition is to provide all of the financial support for our many ministries from among ourselves. Generosity, therefore, is one of the spiritual values we recognize as central to our personal and our institutional well-being. You are invited to participate in the blessing of giving by sending us an offering. Thank you. Our thanks for all the gifts given and received. Now let us sing the doxology.
From all that dwell below the skies, let faith and hope in love arise. Let beauty, truth, and good be sung through every land by every tongue.
Now let us recite the valediction. I'm sorry. Before we do that, please join in singing the closing hymn. How can I keep from singing? Number 108.
My life flows on in endless song above earth's lamentation. I hear the real, the far-off hymn that hails a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear the music ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? What though the tempest round me mars, I know the truth it liveth. What though the darkness round me close, songs in the night it giveth. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging, since love prevails in heaven and earth. How can I keep from singing? When tyrants tremble the bells of freedom ringing, when friends rejoice both far and near. How can I keep from singing to prison cell and dungeon vile? Our thoughts to them are ringing, when friends by shame are undefiled. How can I keep from singing?
Thank you, Mary. And now, let us recite the valediction. The
Flame of the chalice will no longer burn today, but the light of the flame within our hearts continues to shine brightly, illuminating the love felt in our community.
After the benediction, please move your arrow to the top right of your screen and click the gallery view button. Jan will now read the benediction.
There's an artist, a lot of people are familiar with on the East Coast, but I don't think so much here in the California area. His name is Brian Andreas, and he writes these poignant ditties. I can't even call them a ditty, that's not right. But these sayings, and then he illustrates them with kind of a Picasso-type illusion. This one is called Unheard Music. "Don't you hear it?" she asked, and I shook my head, "No." And then she started to dance, and suddenly there was music everywhere, and it went on for a very long time. And when I finally found words, all I could say was,